Welcome to Marlene's Atelier. In this lesson, we're going to be working with our top collar. I'm going to be showing you how to cut it, how to shape it, and how to baste it onto the undercollar so we get just the right amount of ease. You're not going to want to miss this lesson. That's what's happening today in the Atelier. Welcome back, and we are going to get started cutting our top collar. As always, couple of things to note. Normally when we lay a pattern, we are laying that pattern on the warp, okay? In this particular instance, when we cut our collar, we're actually laying it on the weft, all right? And that's because we don't want the stripes in our pattern running vertically, okay? So in other words, and in this being a Prince of Wales, it's hard to tell the difference, okay? This pattern is not exactly symmetrical, right? So you can't like cut it one way and match it the other way. You just can't, all right? But it's more apparent if you take a look at a pinstripe, all right? In this particular instance, we would not want the stripes on this collar running horizontally, right? We want it to run vertically. So we're going to stay on the same lines as that with our collar today. The pattern that I have for my collar is only 6 centimeters at the fall. So we need to make this collar, or we need to cut the cloth much bigger than this because we need to have enough room to tuck the top collar into the undercollar at certain points, all right? We need to be able to tuck it in all around the back of the collar here, at the edge, here at the gorge. Obviously, we need enough underneath at the stand area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my pattern, obviously, as a starting point, and then I'm going to add to it to make it wider and longer to suit my needs. All right, give me 1 second too. I'm just going to grab a weight here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick a stripe here where, you know, I want a stripe at least to run through the center of the collar, if you will, just to have it look nice. Also to give my eye something to look at as I'm bringing the collar around itself, or the top collar around the undercollar. I want my stripes both vertically and horizontally to remain straight. Fun times with a Prince of Wales as this is. So I'm going to use this stripe right here, if you will, basically to be the stripe that runs through the middle of my fall, if you will. Okay, not the collar itself, because remember, the stand is here. Yeah, this is my stand right here. I'm looking at what's going to run through the fall, what we're going to see. Okay? All right, very good. Very good. Also, I want to make good use of my cloth because I am just cutting a single layer here because this is such an intricate pattern. I've got plenty of this cloth, so I'm not going to worry about that a whole lot. I'm also going to leave enough at the bottom here too. We have to have enough to fold in here, as I mentioned. So I always like to leave a little extra for myself to play with. Okay, so I'm actually going to move this down a stripe. There we go. And lay it like that, just like that. All right, like so. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my ruler here, and I'm going to add an extra couple centimeters to this collar. Of course, I'm working on the wrong side of this cloth right now. Okay, just so you know. All right, so I'm just adding a couple centimeters so that I have enough. This is going to make my fall 8 centimeters, which will give me plenty to tuck under. In fact, I'll probably end up trimming a little bit off, but that's okay. Here at the edge of the collar, I'm going to add at least an extra 3, maybe I'll just give it 4 centimeters actually. I like to have enough because some people, when they make collars, what they'll do with the top collar is they'll tuck it in here at the edge. I like to fold mine under here. It just makes it a little bit easier, and you're not trying to make a corner at the edge like here. You know, it's way too much of a hassle. So I'm just going to bring this out a few centimeters so that I have something to play around with if I need to. The other thing that you have to keep in mind as you're making a top collar, we're not just putting this on, we have to add our lovely ease, okay? We definitely have to add ease to this collar because you don't want it to lay tight. If you look here, I can move, you know, I can move this, this cloth around the top collar on that, and that's normal for bespoke. You spent all this time making a beautiful undercollar. You spent all this time ensuring that the undercollar would not be tight. So for the love of God in heaven, you don't want to make your top collar tight and screw the whole kit and caboodle up, right? So that's my thought on that. Here, around the bottom of the collar, here at the collar stand in the bottom of the collar, I'm just going to add an extra couple of centimeters here as well, okay? We'll probably, again, trim this back a little bit, but I just, like I said, I like to make sure that I have enough to play with as I'm putting in that ease. I hate having to cut another piece of cloth. This is wasteful enough. I don't like to be super wasteful. So, all right, so here we're just going to turn this over and we're going to do exactly the same thing. I just want to make sure that I'm in the right spot here. I think I just need to bring this down a tad. Yes, it should be 2 centimeters. So here, just a tad bit more. There we go. That'll work. Just like that. This should be 2.5 at the bottom. Perfect. Okay. All right. And again, I'm just going to add that extra couple of centimeters here with my chalk. Yeah. So nothing too difficult about cutting the undercollar, or the top collar, excuse me. Just want to give yourself a little extra cloth to play with is all. In fact, this will be more than enough because my collar, or my shoulder, if you remember, is a drop on one side. So we'll have plenty to play with. Okay, here, add this extra 2.5 here, and we're all set. All right, that's it. We'll just cut it out, and then we'll get started basting it on. Fun times. All right. Okay, well, hopefully you have a better view of this chalk than I do, but I'll go ahead and get started. I can see it pretty well, so I think we're fine. Now, of course, this is the wrong side of my cloth, so I just want to be aware of that. Let's put a nice big X here, as our habit is to do, yeah? Just put a little X on the cloth. Make sure that we're aware. All right. Using the big old cloth cutters today, right? Oh yeah. My beautiful Ernest writes, I felt so lucky to get these because they only make them short runs certain times of the year. So sometimes they don't make them for a while. I was so blessed to get them. They're my pride and joy. So again, I'm just cutting this on the single. Don't think I'm going through 2 layers of cloth here, because I am not. No, 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 no. All right. So there's the beautiful top collar all ready to go. All right. So before we put our beautiful top collar on our jacket, the next thing we have to do is we have to stretch it. Okay. Just like we stretch the undercollar, we have to stretch the top collar as well. Okay. In the same places. All right. So what I'm going to do right here is our first 2.5 centimeters. This is our collar fall, right? Or excuse me, our collar stand. So right here, and I'm working on the wrong side of the cloth right now, okay? I'm on the wrong, let me make sure I just said that I'm right. I'm on the wrong side. No, this is the wrong side. All right, so I got to work on the wrong side of the cloth when you do this. You do not want to be working on the right side of the cloth, okay? So I'm putting water here. Now on the back, on the collar stand, on the cloth, on the top collar, you cannot stretch this collar stand out enough. In fact, we're going to stretch the whole flipping thing, okay? What do I mean by that? I'm not just concentrating on the shoulder line. I'm really curving the whole guy up here, okay? Watch. So I'm going to come here, and I'm just going to take the cloth, and I'm going to curve it. You see that? And again, I'm focusing on the collar stand, and I'm not going past the break line, okay? But I can't stretch this out enough. We don't want the back, the collar stand, excuse me, in the back of the jacket to be tight. And so we're just going to come in here, and we're going to give it the what's over, okay? We're giving it the what for all right? Here, same. So we put the water on, we soften it, right? And then we curve it. We stretch it out by curving it around, focusing and staying along the break line. If you have to come in with a little bit of chalk and chalk where the collar stand is versus where the fall is, that's fine. There's no problem doing that, okay? There's no problem doing that. Now, how do you know if you stretched it enough? Open up your collar and take a look. And if you see these beautiful little ripples here? Get that out of the way. See those nice little ripples? That's what you want to see. And when you do, now what I can do, okay, is I can just take this unfolded, put some more water on, okay, soften it, and then take it from here and stretch it around this way. Make sure it's nice and dry, okay? We'll do it this way, here. That should have lots of little ripples now. You see that? Oh, that's a beautiful thing. That's what you want to see, okay? Now, in the same way that we did that here, okay, we're going to do the same thing on the collar fall, okay? Same on the collar fall. And again, I'm not going to spare any expense at stretching this, okay? So we're going to soften it, and then we're going to take this and just bring it around. Again, you know, working on the fall is always a little harder because there's more there, right? For sure. All right. Like I said, we just want to make sure it's nice and dry. We'll do the same thing to the other side. We haven't really talked too much about stretching and shrinking other things. We will be stretching our top sleeve, okay? When we go to put the sleeves together, we have to stretch our top sleeve, the inner part of our top sleeve here. Okay, I'll show you. I'll talk to you about that later. One thing at a time, right? Let's get this a little bit more. All right. Okay, so now that we have this guy all stretched out nicely, okay, I've got some good ripples here. Okay, see all those beautiful ripples? And again, here, we can do the same thing. Unfolded, we can just come in this area here and just give this a little pull around. Just curve it up a little bit more. There we go. Just to give it a little extra stretch. There. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. All right, and here. Just like that. All right. Lovely and beautiful. There we go. So now we've got all these really, you see all these nice little ripples? I mean, I know the towel doesn't help. Let's do this. I think we're done. I'll get this towel out of the way. Get him down out of there. So if we lay this guy out now, you can see we have all these nice little ripples here at the collar stand, or at the fall and at the stand. And this one is so much more important here. Those ripples are so important, like I said, so we don't have tightness. You can never, ever stretch that collar stand enough. So we're ready to get our top collar basted on. But the very first thing that we need to do is we need to go in and make sure that none of our pad stitches are going to impede on our ability to turn the cloth under, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna come in here, and anything that is, any stitch that is 1 centimeter in, I have to get rid of, okay? So basically right along here, I'm gonna have to remove these stitches. So all I did was I just pad stitched a little bit too much. Not a big deal, okay? We have to make sure, definitely, that we have room to get the cloth turned under, and certainly if these stitches are gonna be in the way, that's gonna be a big problem. So I'm just gonna get rid of these, okay? And once we get over here past the shoulder line a little bit, we should have plenty of room. So that works out perfect. Just double check that this guy isn't going to be a problem. Yeah, he might be. Just 1 stitch here. We'll get him out of the way. The last thing you want is to spend all this time trying to get the top collar in and then find out that your pad stitches are in the way. Just not a good thing. All right. All right. So we have our beautiful top collar here. We want to make sure we're working on the right side, not the wrong side. Now, I promised a couple videos ago that I would tell you a funny story, and I will not let up on that promise. So the very first collar that I set was a Prince of Wales. such as this. And it was a big mistake for me to try to do that. Pardon me one second. Just needed some pins. All right, it was a big mistake for me to try to do that because I had no experience putting top collars in. And, you know, God loved me. I had, I guess, the gumption to give it a shot, right? But it took me 26 times. And you know what? It wasn't even a Prince of Wales like this, where this is just black and white. This was yellow, white, black, red, blue. I mean, it had every color under the rainbow in it. So, needless to say, I vowed to never, ever tailor again. And I was throwing things around my atelier, and the dogs were scared that they ran out. So we're going to try to avoid that today, okay? And obviously it's been many, many, many years since that first top collar. So I can share with you some hints so that you don't turn into a raging lunatic like I was at that time, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do here, let me just get this over here for a moment, okay? What I'm going to do here is I gave myself 2 centimeters, okay? And so what I want to do is I want to actually chalk that 2 centimeters in here on my collar because I want to be able to gauge, okay, whether or not I'm getting my collar on straight. In other words, what I'm saying is I don't want to have 2 centimeters and then I've got 3 centimeters or 4 centimeters. Okay, I want this to go on evenly as I cut it. Okay, so I'm just going to give myself a little guideline so that the edge of my, collar, when I'm putting this on, I can line this chalk mark up with the edge of my collar, undercollar. Okay, there we go. So it looks something like that. Yeah. And this, of course, is going to be the middle. Now, excuse me, I told you that we needed to put ease. Let's get this jacket put together nicely here so it's not a big mess. Okay? All right. So I told you that we needed to put ease into this collar. All right? Now, the other thing, too, is when you're putting a top collar in, you want to lay it out just like this in front of you, nice and flat, okay, so that you can see what you're doing and you can really manage what you're doing. That's very important. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to line up my collar right here in the middle, and where I put that nice guideline, okay, I'm going to line that right up on the edge of my collar. And I'm going to pin this right here, okay? Just like that. Now, I told you that we need to put ease into the collar as well. In other words, and it makes sense because if you look at what happens here, if I walk the edge of this collar where I put this line, okay? If I walk this around my collar edge with my finger, what do you see start to happen? Yeah, you start to see ease naturally forming here around the collar stand, which is good. We want that because, again, we're taking a flat piece of cloth and we're now giving it curve, right? We're curving this cloth around the undercollar. And so it stands to make sense. Well, what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're providing enough ease in the undercollar. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but what we're adding is about 1/2 centimeter of ease around, or excuse me, a centimeter of ease around the entire collar. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it will translate into a lot, believe me. Now, how am I going to do that? If you see here, I'm just going to bring this a little forward for you. Here's the edge of my collar right here. And if I line this up, I naturally want, and what should happen is, I should have a stripe that lines up perfectly, okay, with the edge of my collar right here, okay? So the stripe, because I walked the collar, the top collar around the undercollar, the stripe should line up perfectly with it. What I can do, if I bring this around, I can just bring that stripe back away from the edge of my top collar by 1/2 centimeter, just like that, okay? That's all I need to do. Just move it just like that. Hold it with my finger. Make sure that my chalk line is lined up on the edge of the collar here, which it is. Just pull it down just slightly, okay? And then, excuse me, I'm just going to put a pin here. So that pin is going to hold, okay, the 1/2 centimeter that I put in between here and there. And let's just double check that I did that properly. So if I walk this around, again, I'm just walking my stripe around the edge of the undercollar, okay? Just like that, and then to here. And if I fold this back, it should all line up beautifully, okay? Just like that, perfectly, beautifully, all right? And then that's all lined up nice. Double check. It can be a little fandangly, you know? It can be a little fandangly. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to scoot this back 1/2 centimeter to reveal 1/2 centimeter of my undercollar right there. Okay? So not too tough. Hold that. Check. Everything's cool. Everything's cool. Cool, cool, cool. And then put a pin. That's it. That lousy pin go. Here it is. So I'll pin it right there. Okay? Done. So here's the ease. See that? There it is. Now it looks like we're going to have a lot of ease here, which we do. We're going to have twice as much ease around the top collar because like we have more space here to, you know, right? And less here. Yeah. So we're going to do the same thing over here now. We're going to walk the stripe, or excuse me, our chalk mark around the edge of the collar. Just walk it around with your finger. Make sure it's touching the edge nicely. Around here. Don't pull it hard. Just let the cloth kind of lay. You don't want to stretch the cloth out, okay? Just let the cloth kind of lay there. I also want to make sure. Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure I had this in the middle. All right, so don't pull it. Just let it lay there, okay? We'll get around to the edge. We'll fold it back. We should have our stripe lining up perfectly, okay? If we did everything properly here, okay? There, 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 okay? And then what we want to do when we fold it back, we're just going to move this back 1/2 centimeter, just like that, and pin it, okay? Put a little pin in. Now, the other thing that I have to tell you is because I have a drop shoulder, or anytime you're working with, an asymmetrical situation as like mine, you are not going to be able to match your collar up exactly in the same place on either side, okay? You're just not. It's impossible, all right? Unless you don't want to center a stripe or a plaid in the middle, all right? Then you could maybe do it that way. So you have to make a choice. I personally, you know, I would rather match it here in the center and work it around because you don't really notice it as much, really. So, all right, with all that being said, What we want to do now is we want to start basting. We're going to do 3 different bastes, okay? I'm just going to check. I want to make sure that I've got enough ease here before I get too involved. I just feel like I need a little bit more on this side. Just not sitting right with me. That's better. And we'll check over here too as we get over that way. All right, that feels better to me. All right, so we're gonna get some thread, which conveniently enough, I have some right here. All right, we're gonna do 3 bastes. The first baste, we're gonna come down about 1.5 centimeters off of the edge of the collar, okay? From the edge of the undercollar here. We wanna come down about 1.5 centimeters, okay? We also wanna start over here, just lining this up a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. We don't wanna start right at the, no, that's fine. We're going to start right here, okay? And again, I want to come down about 1.5 centimeters because I don't want my stitches to get in the way when I go to turn back the edge of my cloth, okay? Does that make sense? So hopefully you have a pretty good feel, so I can feel and see my chalk line right on the edge of my collar, and I can come down about 1.5 centimeters here to get started, okay? About 1.5 centimeters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tack this here, and I'm going to start adding ease right away, okay? Now all it's going to take to put ease into this collar, very honestly, okay, is just rolling this slightly around my finger. What this allows me to do is a couple of things. It allows me to make sure that my chalk line is sitting right on the edge of my collar, undercollar. It also allows me to pay attention to what's happening with my vertical stripes because I have to keep them straight, running around the collar straight, okay? In other words, I don't want this to be sitting here like this, okay? I want these to be running this way, real nice, okay? At the same time, with the bloody Prince of Wales, you have to also make sure that your stripes are behaving themselves horizontally, okay? So you're not skewing your stripes horizontally. All right, so I'm just gonna come in and I'm gonna add a little bit of ease each time I take a stitch, okay? Keeping my stitches down. Remember, I have a curve here, so I have to curve my stitches, okay? So keeping that in. My stitch length here, it's actually a little big. Let's start that. Let me get that, like those to be a little smaller. I want my stitches to be probably about the same, like 1 to 1.5 centimeters as well. Because I want to be able to add enough ease into the collar but I don't want these like really huge, you know, I don't want stitches this long, right? I want them to be pretty conservatively small, okay? So here we're going to curve these stitches down right away. So I'm going to keep it about 1, maybe 1.5 centimeters long. And again, making sure that my chalk line is sitting on the edge of the undercollar. I'm about 1.5 centimeters down. And my stripes are remaining nice and straight, both vertically and horizontally, okay? So I'm taking and basting just a small amount of ease into this undercollar at the time. Each stitch, small amount. By rolling it over your finger, it creates that ease, okay? just by rolling it over your finger. As I baste, I'm going all the way through the outside to the outside of the collar here. Okay, so my baste is really deep. Okay, so I want this to hold very nicely. All right, so just a small amount. Remember, it's only a 1/2 centimeter, so you don't have to add a lot of ease in between each stitch to achieve what you want to achieve. Just a small amount. And whatever you add here, it's going to be twice as much at the collar stand, okay? So we're just going to take a look at it each time. We go to baste. We're going to make sure our stripes are staying straight, both vertically and horizontally. We want to make sure that we're coming down off the top of the undercollar here, enough to allow us to tuck in that 1 centimeter, okay? And we're just adding a small amount of ease. I'm just lifting that collar up ever so slightly and curving it around my finger, and it just creates that little bit of ease that we need. Okay? Perfect. Just a very small amount each time. Okay, beautiful. And I'm probably just going to check that. Yeah, so I'm coming down. My stitches are about 2 centimeters off the edge, which is fine. It's a little further down than I'd like, but that's not that big of a deal. We'll have plenty of room. We'll have plenty of room. Okay, so we want to just keep taking a look at what's happening here. Okay, making sure all is well. Adding that small amount of ease. Keeping things nice and straight. Okay, nice and straight. And away we go. That's it. That's all we're doing this first one. Just a little bit. All right, so little bit, teeny tiny here or there, boop, 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 all the way around. And we're almost at our halfway mark, so I think we're looking good so far. Yeah. So far, so good. Little ease, little ease. And you see, as we come around the back, you can see how the ease looks like we've got so much more, right? But we really don't, because it's because where we are, we've got that curve. This is where a lot of that curve is coming into here, all right? And so it looks like we've got a ton of ease here, and we really don't have, there's not much more ease here than when we first started. And that's really important because you want to make sure that you're putting the same amount of ease in between each stitch all the way around the collar. Okay, that's really, really important. My room is getting a little warm. My glasses are once again sliding off my nose. All right, so now I'm at my halfway point, and we can take a look at what we've done so far. And it looks pretty nice to me. I think that my stripes are looking very nice and straight, okay? I don't have a problem with that. If I come over here to the edge, these stripes are lining up perfectly on the edge. They're not off at all, which is good, very good, okay? So I'm happy with the first half so far. Now what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're adding the same amount of ease on this side, okay? So I just want to come back over here now that I have that in and double check that all is well over here, okay? Let's just double check that all is well. So that's all secure and nice. Here, here, yep, we can just pop that back a bit. I think that's going to work. That'll give us the ease we need. We'll pop another pin in. I always just like to double check. There's no harm in that, right? Well, the nice thing too is I can just add the amount of ease that I need. And if I have too much here, then it'll work its way out by the time I get to this edge, okay? But I'm gonna keep adding the same amount of ease here all the way around the rest of my collar. Beautiful. Easy breezy. It's not. Don't let me say that to you. I hope that the technique I'm sharing with you helps you to set a top collar much more easily than I did my first few times. They can be extremely frustrating when you first get started. But don't let that deter you, okay, please. Because this is having this kind of talent, if you will, or knowing how to do this sort of technique, okay? It's what sets bespoke tailors apart from everybody else, all right? We've talked about this throughout this entire series, what a beautiful, lovely thing it is to be able to take a flat piece of cloth and turn it into a beautiful three-dimensional garment, okay, that someone can wear and love, right? Wear it and love it and be proud of it. Or if you're making it for somebody, right? If you're making it for somebody, that it just, it transforms them. It makes them feel confident, beautiful, handsome, successful, whatever. I mean, that's what a beautifully made garment can do for a person, just make them feel amazing. And so, don't get discouraged if you have a little bit of a tough time doing this. Welcome to the club. This is why collars and sleeves are two of the most, complicated items to tailor. They really are. There's nothing easy about it. That's why we spend time honing our craft and learning how to do these things. Just take it out, do it again. I think I can do a better job. Let me bring this over here so you can see it a little better. Let's make sure I'm lining that line up. Let's make sure our stripes are running straight. Stay off the edge, right? Stay off the edge. Far enough away from the edge here. In fact, I'm probably a little bit too far, but that's okay. We just need to make sure, because we have a couple more bastes to do here, we want to make sure that we leave enough room for the other two bastes that we have to do, okay? And, yeah, that'll be okay. And we also want to make sure that the ease is distributed throughout the width of the collar, yeah? It's very important. So we want to stay close enough to that edge to make sure that that happens. Yeah. This looks much better already. Much, much better. Right here, this is going to be just about our last stitch right here. We'll take a look. I think that looks better. Better already. Let's have a look now. Let's lay it back out. Yes. Ah, yes, that looks much, much better. Much, much more even. Okay, very happy with that. All right, so that's base number 1. So now we can get this guy out. Our pins, we don't need them. The second base that we're going to do is we're actually going to stagger on the first baste. And this is just to help us in terms of distributing the ease that we have put in. Because like anything else, if you put ease in, you got to shrink it out. And that's exactly what we're going to do here, okay? So what we're going to do is the second baste is much easier than the first because we're just going to stagger in between our stitches, all right? So that one is much, much easier than the first one. If you get the first one right, the second one is super easy. It's the first one that's the kicker. The first one is the kicker. 26 times. God help me. What was I thinking? Starting with a Prince of Wales. I can never do anything easy. Oh, let's just start with a plain cloth, Mar, and try it that way. No. No. Why would you want to do that? That would be crazy. That would be craziness. Starting off with something simple. My poor husband. He came home from work. Now, before I get blabbering, what I'm doing here to stagger this, what I mean is I'm wherever there's an open space, like the space in between each stitch, that's where I'm putting my stitch. And then where the stitch is above it is where I'm coming in between. Hope that makes sense. You see? Can you see that? So I'm doing that. Okay? Yes. Right. Just staggering. So my poor husband, now I had a really beautiful atelier in Chicago. It was huge, pretty huge. And it was very sunny. I had windows all over. So it was super sunny, super nice. I love that. I love that workspace. And it was down in our basement. We had a duplex down. And so my husband came home from work and he quickly ran back up the stairs because I was like, get out of here. I'm gonna kill somebody. I had thrown my jacket across the room. I think I even stamped on it a few times. I'm sure I did. I threw a real 3-year-old tantrum. It was quite embarrassing. It's embarrassing to tell you that, but it's important. It's important to let you know that, everybody's road to learning this craft is a little bit different. My road to learning this craft was filled with 3-year-old temper tantrums. Many times no one knew about except me because I was home alone and the dogs that I had at the time. Oh, they knew when I got fired up. They were out of there. They were running up the stairs and hunkering down up in the bedroom upstairs. Oh, that was how I learned, through tantrums. But it got easier and easier. And, I'm glad that I made all of those mistakes because, when I was teaching, when I had the American Bespoke Tailoring Academy and I was teaching, was so happy I made all those mistakes because it was easier when I went to teach my students. I could teach them what not to do. I had figured out ways of improving those techniques and making them easier, here, adding a little line around the top and following that guideline. That was not something I was originally taught, but I did it for myself to help myself. And so, you figure all these little things out on your own. And then obviously when I was teaching, my students were not using Prince of Wales to start with. I can guarantee you that. They were using a stripe, which is still challenging, but they had a much better success rate than I ever did. So God bless them. God bless them. So yeah, that's my story. What can I tell you? I'm not proud of it, but it got me where I am today, which is helping you. So hopefully you're not throwing 3-year-old tantrums, but I guess I could say I'm sure we're all guilty of it. We've all had those moments, whether you're an avid sewer or tailor or whatever, that you were just like, oh God in heaven help me, right? Oh, well, it's our little secret. Now you know. All right. Now, so we've got our first 2 bastes in. That's fantastic. Now here comes the tough part, okay? What we have to do now is we have to take and baste the collar around the break line, okay? And when we do that, you can see what happens, yeah? You can see all this ease that all of a sudden you're like, whoa, where did all that ease come from? Well, we're looking at a circle, right? This part of our collar is much wider and broader. And this part of our collar, where we have, the collar stand, is not wider and broader, it's smaller. And so whatever ease we put into the collar up here is going to translate into being much, much more down here. That's just how it is. So it gets a little more challenging, but again, what we can do to help ourselves out, because the biggest challenge is we put this ease in, and what we have to do when we baste it is we have to make sure that we're distributing that ease exactly where we put it. In other words, I don't want to push it and have my stripes go this way or this way. You see, it has to come and be basted down directly where we put it. And this is what makes the top collar a little tough, okay? Just a little tough. But what we're gonna, and then the other thing we have to do here is we have to turn all this in, right? Eventually, not right this second, but we're gonna turn this in. So we have to give ourselves enough room as we come down here. We're gonna baste like this. We're gonna baste down across the collar like this, okay? There. Then we're gonna come underneath, baste all around underneath, just like a centimeter or so under the break line. And all right, then we're gonna come back up over here and finish over here on this side. You see that? So I'll just make a couple of lines here so you can see where we have to baste and not get in the way, because the last thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna turn this under and baste this down like this and turn this back. So we're gonna have our collar eventually. We have to turn our edge in too. So we have quite a bit to do yet. So maybe I should just stop babbling and get to it, yeah? Or this will be like a three hour video. Can you imagine? The hour ones are long enough. God bless all of you who watch them too. I mean, I'm impressed when I tell you. I know some of you, you watch the whole bloody thing. And that is patience. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. All right, so let me get this collar here so you can see what's going on. I'm going to start right here where I stopped. In fact, I'm going to put my ruler under here because I don't want to risk basting the top collar to the jacket. Okay, so I'm just going to put the ruler under there for the moment. And we're going to tack this down here nicely. Okay, now again, we have to be aware that we have this ease. So what I want you to do is just take your fingers and just, comb the ease down like that. So it's exactly where it was meant to be. We can still run the risk of pushing the ease around just in this area. There we go. Okay, so make sure that ease is sitting where it's supposed to sit. Capture it in between your stitches here. All right, now when we get to the break line, all right, here, let's see, where am I? I have one, that's fine, there. Okay, so here I'm at my break line, all right. Now what I want to do is I want to turn my jacket over like so, okay, just like that. And I want to make sure that I'm bringing this cloth around, okay, here. And I'm going to tack this right here. I'm just going to tack this nicely. And I'm going to continue basting this the rest of the way around. Now you can do this a couple different ways, okay? You can either keep the collar open, all right, and bring the cloth around like so, or I like to close the collar, turn the collar down, all right? And then I like to keep checking. I pull my cloth right where it's supposed to be, and what I do is I baste by turning the cloth or the whole collar around my finger, okay? Now I'm only coming off the break line by about a half a centimeter or a centimeter here, not much, because I want to keep this close, okay? And what I keep doing is just giving this a little bit of a pull and checking to make sure that I'm not pulling my cloth, you know, I'm not pulling those stripes over out of where they should be, okay? So this guy, he needs to come here and here, okay? So it just takes a little bit of patience. And of course, we want to make sure that we're not pulling too much horizontally either. So usually what I do is I get in like 3 or 4 stitches, and then I'll put this back like so, and I'll take a look at it, and I'll see if I'm happy. And so far, I think, nope, I got to take a couple out. I've pushed this stripe over too much, okay? So I did push that stripe over. So let's take a couple out, which means that I wasn't, when it came to the ease, you see, this has to come over this way. So let's do this to make life a little easy for ourselves, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring, let me see if I can do this so you can see it better. Let's do it this way. I'm going to bring this down like this, okay? Here's my break line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be a bit of a cheater, and I'm just going to put a pin right here. You see that? Right there, okay? Then I'm going to come to this next big stripe here, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to pull it down. Don't pull it too hard because we don't want to create, you know, any tightness when we fold this back, okay? We don't want it to be tight that way. We want to give it a little bit of ease there too, and just pin that. So what I'm doing is I'm just making sure that I'm pinning the collar where it has to lie so that when I fold it over to sew it, okay, it's where it's supposed to be. And this is a great way when you're working with a Prince of Wales or a more complex pattern, if it's some sort of plaid, okay, this is a great way to go about doing it because you are sure that you're not pushing your ease somewhere that it doesn't belong. All right, and that one can stay there, and that's already good. So now, oh geez, now I can very confidently come in here and baste the rest of this down. Okay? Yeah. This is not easy, ladies and gentlemen, not easy. Okay, so let's get to it. Let's get to it. All right. The other thing I like to say too is when we're dealing with a collar situation like this, I like to take it one little step at a time, okay? Don't try and boil the ocean. In other words, I'm not looking to here yet. I'm just paying attention to what is right in front of me, okay? And making sure whatever I'm working on right in front of me is in good shape, okay? So far, so good. One stitch at a time, as they say. One stitch at a time. Now I can take this little pin out. He's done his job. Roll this guy down. Okay. Make sure this ease is coming in where I want it to come in. Much better. See, this is much, much better. Take another little stitch. Okay. Let's make sure that this ease is where we want it to be. Pull this down. Down and around, like so. Let's see. Oh, he has to move over a little bit here. Come here, you. Yep. There we go. Just like that. Yep. Telling you. Nothing easy. Nothing easy. Okay, let's get that guy out of the way. Pull this guy in. One step at a time, people. One step at a time. But it is a lot. It is a lot to manage because you're like, wait a second. Wait a moment here, people. Right? In fact, I think at this point, I'm just going to work it like so. Because, there we go. That's a little bit better. There. Okay. Make sure this is where I want it. Here. Yep. Here. All right. And when we're all done, we'll take a look and see if we're happy or not. Yeah? We'll see if we're happy or not. If we're not, we'll take it out, we'll do it again. Because that's what we do. Till we're happy. Till we're happy. The other thing is, don't make these stitches super tight. Just let them lay. Let them lay there. Oh dear. Okay, Marlene. Let's stop. Forget that part. And let's back it up to here. Because I'm not happy with this at all. No. And it's... Okay. Forget the pins and so forth. Okay. Let me figure something out here. All right. All right, so we just tacked this little bit off here. And what I want to do now, okay, because what's happening here, there's a lot of ease to deal with along this very short area, okay? So what I usually do is I will take the center of my collar, okay, and I'll bring that around like so and under. Now I don't want to pull it super tight, but I do want it to be laying here quite snugly, okay? So I'm just going to bring that around, make sure it's not too tight, all right? And I'm going to pin it. All right, just going to pin this here like so, like that. Then I'm going to break this in half again, okay? And I'm going to bring this down and around like so once again. What I'm doing is I'm making sure that the stripes are laying where they're supposed to be laying, okay? So really, I've got two stripes here. I'm going to work right in between these two. I'm going to push the cloth down under the break line, okay? Make sure it's snug, not tight, just snug, okay? And I'm going to put another pin there, making sure, again, that the ease is distributed where it should be, okay? Just pin that. So now when I come in to sew, I can see exactly where this ease should be, and I don't have to mess around with it a whole lot, okay? So I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm just going to divide what I have left, which isn't a whole lot, okay? Because this is my right side. So I'm just going to bring this over, pin it down right here where it belongs. Okay? We'll put another pin here. Pin, 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 pin. Okay? So now you can see I've got a pin in the middle right there. I've got a pin here dividing up my shoulder line. Whoops. And I have a pin over here. And now, if I'm smart and lucky, I can get all of this distributed quite nicely, okay? So again, I want to smooth this up and over the break line nicely here. Don't want to pull it, just want it to be snug. Come maybe a ½ centimeter down or so and give it a nice little stitch. Okay? Make sure that's where it's supposed to be. Smooth it. Give it a nice little stitch. Now right here is not so bad, but as we get into the center here, you can see there's a lot more ease. And of course the pin's holding it down and, you know, not allowing me to do much with it, but I'll get to that, okay? The most important thing is that these little pins are really helping to ensure that we're keeping the ease where it needs to be. It can be a little challenging because you can't really see what you're doing if you're working this way and folding, you know, folding the break line over. So you have to kind of just take a little bit at a time. Make sure, in fact, if you want to take one pin out and then put another pin in just to hold it in that area for yourself, you can do that. Just to divide up the ease that's there, because there's quite a bit here. And I want to make sure it's where it should be. We're getting into the nitty-gritty. And it can be a little challenging. All right? It can be a bit challenging. But we'll get it. We'll get it. Don't you worry. Don't you worry, my friends. We will get it. It's a little struggle here and there. And of course, you know, we're going to be coming in and pressing all of this out, okay? Oh yeah, that looks much better. Okay, very good. Very good. We're going to be pressing all this out. So this ease will shrink. It won't all shrink away, okay? You might have, very honestly, you may have some wrinkling in the collar around the break line, and that happens, and it's very unnoticeable actually, but I have it in this jacket, and I'll take it off here in a few and show you. So you're not going to get every single bit of the ease out, but that's okay, because again, you don't want the collar to be tight. That's the last thing you want. After you spent all this time getting the undercollar in properly so it wasn't tight, you definitely don't want the top collar to be tight, because it'll just look terrible. And it can really mess around with the rest of the jacket. Okay, let's see how we're looking here. Oh, that's much, much better. Yeah, we'll be able to distribute that and work that out. Okay, let's keep the rest of this where it should be. That looks great. Yep, that looks good. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, hopefully you can see. I know I'm kind of all over with this, but it's hard to manage because we're trying to do several things here all at once. Keep the ease where it's supposed to be, baste it, make sure it's not too tight. I know the collar was really fun until now. It was really fun until you get to the top collar. This guy can be a bear. He can be a bear. All right, we're almost where we need to be over here. So we got a couple more stitches. In fact, I think I drew my line off a little bit because I can feel my shoulder line. And that's where I really want to come up. Don't want to baste. Well, I guess I could go there. Okay, we'll come a few more stitches. A couple more stitches here. Okay, get this nice. See how we look. See how we look. All right, here, I'm going to tack this All right. And then, let's see. Yes. Do I have enough thread to get where I need to go? Well, I guess it doesn't matter because I just lost my needle. Oh my goodness, where did it go? There it is. Okay. You know what? We'll just get some more thread. Oh, what a day. What a day in the atelier, I'll tell you. Something else. It's something else. We have those days. Tell you what, though, I think having some awkward days is a lot better when I'm doing it with you guys than when I'm on my own. Kind of sucks when you have a shitty day by yourself. You know what I mean? All right, so here I'm just going to tack this off like so. We're not really having a shitty day. It's just the collar. It's a tough one. And the test of whether we did it well or not is going to be coming up right here in a moment. Here I'm just coming along the top of the collar now, just making sure that I've got my ease where it's supposed to be, okay? And we're going to just tack it off and be done with that. All right? Be done with that. All right. Now, what we need to do is have a look at this. Let's swing it around your way so we can lay the jacket out nice. Let's take a look. There we go. And see how everything is looking here. So if we look at how the collar is going to lay, it's going to lay like this, yeah? Of course, this is going to be tucked under like that. We're not going to do that quite yet. And just get it out of the way. So I know you're looking at this going, oh my God, Marlene, there's a lot of wrinkles there. There are, but we're going to get these, we're going to get out the iron and we're going to press this out really nice. This is really, a lot of this is just going to go away. It's just going to go away. So let's pull the iron out. And we're going to do it just like we did the top collar, or excuse me, the under collar. Okay. We're going to come in here. Let's get this, all this stuff over here out of the way. Okay. Let's bring the old flames of hell over. This iron, it's so hot. Everything I put it on, it burns. Tell you. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to start right in the middle like I did before, okay? Now, this is, of course, where we have the most of the ease, okay? So first thing, make sure everything is folded down really nice underneath, number one, okay? Don't forget about the shape of our cup. God, I'm like not even where you can see me. Sorry about that. Let me move over. Okay. We want to keep true to the shape of the collar. Remember, the back should be straight. So we don't want to be doing this and causing the back of the collar, the undercollar, to curve. So stay true to the shape that you gave the undercollar. The top collar, remember, the top collar is just the window dressing. That's it. That's all it is window dressing. The undercollar is the foundation. So we're going to put a nice amount of water on this. Okay, don't be shy about it. We've got a really nice hot iron. The devil himself would be impressed with the heat that comes from this iron. Well, and trust me, the days that this iron has hit my hand in the worst way, it felt like I was in hell. Oh my God, you do not want to burn your hand on these irons. They are so hot. Yeah. All right. See, look at that. Barely a wrinkle. All right, there's a little wrinkle here and there, but that's going to come out. That's going to come out. So what we have to do when we have these little bit of wrinkles, we're just going to come in and redistribute them. Yeah, just pull them out, pull them around like this. Okay, I know you're going to get like a couple of areas where you've got a fold. Don't worry about that. Just redistribute this, okay? Because we're going to probably come over and do this a couple of times. In fact, when you have a fold, just come in and put water on it directly on the cloth. You see that? I have a fold right here. I have a fold right there. Don't worry. Just give this a little pull. Pull the ease down a little bit. Put some water on it. Okay? We're going to do the preemptive strike on that guy. Okay? Fold this back down. So far, it's looking great. Okay? I'm going to move this over, just like that. Because this has a lot of ease around the collar stand, yeah? It's gonna do that. So it's gonna take a couple of passes to get a lot of this out. And what we can do as we put the water on and we come in here to press it, we're just gonna lay that out flat. We're just gonna flatten it with our fingers. Because what we're doing here is we're trying to shrink away that ease, okay? And so it's not gonna happen like that, right? It's gonna take a couple of passes here. And sometimes, if you have too much ease in a collar, you can tell if you can't shrink it out. What do you do at that point? Take this out, do it again, and put less ease in. And I know that sounds like, oh God, Marlene, I wouldn't want to have to do that. It's not that big of a deal. You know, it's how you learn. Believe me. Believe you me. Oh yeah, you see how now that's all gone. That's all gone. I'm going to come back here in the center though again, and I'm going to just distribute this ease out a little bit. Right here, you see that? Right in there. I'm just going to distribute that out and get some of those folds out. But this is shrinking out really nice. There's a little fold right there. There we go. It's going to shrink him out. There we go. Let's get this one more time right here. See, this is the tough part. The other stuff is just going to go. Very happy with this collar, actually. Now, what could you do? What could you do? With collars, anything. You know, if you want to get creative with a collar, I didn't have to put a Prince of Wales on here. I could have put a black collar on it. I could have taken a beautiful, you know, black whatever, wool. I could have taken, you know, a heavier flannel. I could have done a silk. Oh, I don't know about that. You know, I could have put red. I could have done anything. So, you know, you're not committed to putting the same cloth on as the rest of the garment. I could put a velvet, a beautiful velvet collar on it. Ooh, red velvet would have been nice. I didn't have any red velvet though. Oh God, look at that, it's gorgeous now. Look at that, that's beautiful. You see that back there now? So we have a couple of wrinkles here. I'm not worried about that. In fact, that's not very dry. Let me finish drying that off, or those wrinkles are just going to come right back. They're just going to come right back. So it has to be dry underneath too. Let's just hold it there for a minute. Didn't have any red velvet. That would be really pretty though. Or black velvet would have been pretty. But I wanted, you know, I want this coat to be more of like a casual statement piece, you know. You can dress it up or dress it down, wear it with jeans or maybe a really nice skirt or maybe a pair of leather pants. Ooh, I like that. That sounds good. Beautiful, gorgeous. Okay, right here, same. Now we're at the shoulder line. So again, we want to bring it around just like we had it on a shoulder. Okay. This is lovely. Very happy with this. Okay. So we press it the same way, the same way we press the undercollar, okay? Shaping it, always shaping it in the same fashion, making sure it's dry. All right. Just a little bit here. Let's just press this out here. We want to make sure as we're pressing this too, okay, that all of the collar, even around, you know, the top here, that's all that ease is nice. You can see we've got a little here that just needs to be shrunk, shrink it out, shrunk, whichever it would be. And the other thing that you have to realize too is we have all these stitches in here. And so a lot of those stitches are emphasizing the amount of ease that's in the collar. Once we're done with the collar and all those stitches come out, completely different ballgame. I mean, if you can imagine this collar here had just about the same, or had the same amount of ease that this collar does. Yeah? And so with this one too. Look at, see? I can pick that. That's all right. Okay, that looks beautiful. Let's do this side. Okay. Same here. Let's get this right in here. Get that out. So see, we can still see the ease, but it's not like all folded and gunky. We'll shrink that out some more. Oh yeah. Remember, we still have to give this a final press. Yeah? Yep. Okay. All this pressing. Geez, we could spend just a whole lesson on pressing this bloody collar. But it's a lot. This is a lot. Lot to finish, but we're close. We're close here. We're going to trim up the edge. That won't be hard. And then we're going to get everything folded down, folded under and down. Yeah? That's it. Be easy. This was the tough part. This was the hard part. And I'll probably come in here and do a little more pressing of this offline too. I think the most important part is you get the gist of what has to happen here, right? You get it. You guys are pros now when it comes to dealing with ease. You've done enough of it with me in this jacket, that's for sure. Nothing should surprise you when it comes to ease, right? You put it in, you take it out. We're like the ease queens and kings. Queen of ease. That might be a really cool tailoring show. Do like the queen of ease. Very bad tailoring humor. Okay, I'm just going to get this one more time in here because I feel like we could just grab a little, just shrink a tiny bit of this right here out. Just a tiny bit more. I think it's 100% possible without making a mess of everything else. You know, I just had a really funny thought. I feel like a magician. Yeah? It's like there's ease and you like cover it up, you know, with the silk, you know, their silk handkerchief and the abracadabra, and it's like poof, the ease is gone. I don't know why I just thought of that. I think when I was putting the press cloth over it, it just, I don't know, just made me feel like a magician. Oh, God. Well, if the ease disappears, then what can I say? It's magic. Either that or it's a really damn good illusion on my part, right? Oh, that looks much better. That looks much, much better. Okay, and like I said, I'm gonna press this a little bit more, again, here and there, but I'm very happy with this. And let's just throw it on our girl here quickly so you can get a feel without it just laying all over what it's gonna look like when it's actually on and done. Just slightly here, okay? Just slightly. Tuck it in nice. Okay, we still have a little bit more work to do on it, but I'm happy with that. I think that's going to look nice. Lays real smooth here. You can see there's a bit of ease still in the back, but a lot of that is going to just distribute around nicely once these stitches are out. So I'm very pleased so far. I think that looks wonderful. We have a few more things to do here. We have to turn in our edge. If you remember, we need about 1 centimeter here to turn in between the linen and the melton, okay? And so we need to trim some of that back because we have a little bit too much right now, okay? So let me just open this collar up nicely so we can lay it out and see what we're doing. All right, here we go. Without mangling it up too much, right? Okay, come on now. Oh, goodness gracious. There we go. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my ruler here and a little bit of chalk, and I'm just going to chalk a 1 centimeter line all the way around the collar, okay? Edge, the collar edge, if you will. Because we need to have some to turn in, but we don't want too much. We don't want it to be too bulky. And I don't want to have to take more of our stitches out either, right? Our pad stitches. So just 1 centimeter is enough. Okay, just 1 centimeter is enough. If it looks a little dark in here today, it's because we are having some torrential rain and thunderstorms. So the atelier is a little the atelier is a little gray today. Yeah. All right. So if you hear a little rumbling or whatever, that's what you're hearing, a little thunderstorm in the background. And that's all right. We don't get a lot of rain here in Dallas. Not as much as I'd like. But we are on the prairie, so that's a step away from desert, for God's sake. So that I couldn't handle. That I couldn't handle. And I'll tell you what, when it rains here, it rains. All right. These big, big scissors of mine. All right, very good. So we'll get that out of here. Okay, so that is very nice. We have just the right amount now. We'll worry about the stuff on the ends here in a little bit, okay? We're not going to worry about that right now. We'll get there one step at a time, right? One step at a time. So what I want to do here is I just want to arrange this coat because I have to, here we go, I have to turn this way. And I don't want this falling all over the floor. So, all right. So let's get this positioned properly here. Perfect. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to be doing, let me just check and make sure that I've left enough room for myself here. Yes. Okay. Very nice. So what I'm going to be doing here, as I mentioned, is I'm going to be turning the edge of my collar, top collar, in between the linen and the melton, okay? And what I'm going to do as I baste this, I'm just going to baste the cloth to the linen, All right, I'm not going to baste it to both. And I'm going to tell you why here in a second. Let me get this started here. It can be a little bit difficult. What we need to do, you see, is we need to trim back the melton a bit because we don't want the melton to be seen at the edge of the collar here, right? We don't want it to be seen. So what we have to do is we have to come in and we have to cut it back, okay? So I don't want to stitch or baste this linen and melton to one another because of that. Also, I want to make sure, and let me turn myself here so you can see what I'm doing, because I think I'm kind of like over here again. All right. I'm also, the other reason is I want to make sure that when I baste this cloth down, okay, the edge of the collar down here, I want to get my stitches really small and close together because I don't want my cloth to ripple at the edge. I want my cloth to be really sharp along this edge here, okay? And so the smaller my stitches and the closer I can get them to each other, the more successful I'll be in achieving that, okay? So my stitches are about 1 centimeter long, and I'm about 1/2 centimeter in between. That seems to be the standard, right? And I'm just coming in and I'm turning this edge down real nice. I'm not forcing it, okay? I'm not, I'm not making it tight. I'm just letting it lay there real nice. I'm not doing a running baste. I'm just doing one baste at a time. So I'm turning my edge over, okay, folding it down, and then taking a nice stitch here. I'm just going to work around the collar that way. That way, when we go to trim back the melton, we are not battling with everything being sewn together, and we can get a nice, clean edge, okay, on the melton. If you baste the melton and the linen together, the risk that you run is that when you go to cut, even though you've left a 1/2 inch for yourself, or excuse me, 1/2 centimeter for yourself, you still can get the melton to ripple because you've got stitches in the way, all right? So I find if you just baste this way, it's much, much nicer, much cleaner. And then when you go to finish, you will be cross-stitching the edge of the melton to the collar here, okay? And then we'll be pick stitching the collar on the top as well. So that'll be held down really nice, really nice. Okay? I hope that makes sense. The other thing that's really important as you're doing this is to make sure that you're maintaining the integrity of your ease, okay? We don't want to be pushing. It's, you know, if you're left, or excuse me, if you're right-handed and you're coming in and you're smoothing this down, you can very easily push that ease over, and you don't want to do that. So be aware of where that ease is and follow through with it right to the edge of the collar. It's very important. Okay? It's not hard. Just look at where it is. And so this is a really easy way to go about getting the edge of the top collar basted down nicely, and I think it's always worked well for me. And much easier than trying to manage 2 layers at this point. So, all right. So we're just going to work our way around to the other side here nicely. Okay. And what do you think we're going to do? Well, we're going to press this one more time. We're not going to press it right away because I want to get the edge turned in here at the edge of the collar, okay? And we also have to turn in here around the top of the lapel. So we're going to do that next. Like I said, we want, by the time we're done with this today, the top collar or the collar in and of itself will be ready for finishing. I can't believe we're getting to that part. It's fast. Once we're finished with this collar, we're going to move on to sleeves. Oof. Then the real fun begins. Then the real fun begins. Holy Christmas. Holy hat, as Grandma would say. Holy hat. Yeah, the sleeves are the pièce de la résistance of our jacket. That's it. That's right. Let's turn this a little bit here. There we go. Boy, it seems so dark in here today. It's just pouring outside right now. Just pouring. Yeah. Just pouring. I don't know. You probably can't hear that. So. All right. Pebbles doesn't like it. She hates it. She hates the rain. She hates thunder. She doesn't really freak out, but she's like, she's been under my feet all morning. She's just like, I hate it. Make it stop, please. All right. So I'm right here to the edge. Right here, finishing off the edge. And I just want to be real careful that I don't get this looking too crazy here. There we go. Okay. See if I can do one more stitch to lock this in here. Yeah. All right. Now, I'm going to tackle these edges last, okay? I'm going to tackle those last. They can tend to be a little bit of a chore. All right, so what we want to do now, okay, since we've got our edge all basted down real nice, you see, and we're going to come in, like I said, and we're going to trim some of this melting back and get it out of our way, okay? So it doesn't, so we can't see it on the outside, all right? What we want to do now is if we open up our coat, let's look on, get this out of the way, get this laying down nicely here, okay? All right, you can see here, okay, this is, if you remember, this is where we cut the facing right here. Okay, let me center this a little bit better. This is where we cut the facing. And I said, this is where we have to cut the facing back in this fashion because this is where our collar, okay, our collar stand is going to come together. And so what we have to do, and so what we're doing is we're working on this part right here and inside, okay? So what we have to do is we have to turn this edge in like so, okay, and baste it down. And so I think I have more, you know, I don't think I have to trim a whole lot here, but I do here. So we need to keep a centimeter, okay? So what I like to do is I like to take my ruler, okay, and I like to line it up here, right on the edge of the lapel, okay? You can even do it this way, all right? And maybe this way is best, so I can see whether I'm lined up. Yeah. All right, so I like to line it up right on the edge of the lapel and make a nice chalk mark here, like so, okay? Just like that, okay? So what I need to do, and I'm going to just double check that. It's really important. Yeah, that's perfect. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a centimeter to that, okay? So I have something to tuck under, okay? So we're just going to take and add a centimeter to this all the way back. All right? And then we want to very carefully come in here with our shears and trim this back. Make sure that you know exactly what you're cutting because you're sitting right on top of the jacket. Oh, God knows we don't want to cut our top of our lapel off. Could you imagine? Just like right through it we go. And right here, I'm just going to put a little bit of water. I have a couple of big wrinkles here that I don't like. And I also have one here on my canvas that I'm not crazy about. So I'm going to just, yes, flatten that out a little bit. Get my press cloth here. Just press this out so it's not giving us a hard time as we're trying to turn everything under, yeah? And make it nice. Yes. All right. Get that so that it's not falling all over the bloody place. Very good. All right. How exciting. This collar is almost done, right? Very exciting. Okay. Ah, yes, much better. Okay. All right, so here, what we need to do, okay, is we need to come in with a little bit of thread. And again, there's a lot of extra cloth here that I'm going to end up getting rid of, okay? So I want to come in with my basting thread. And again, we don't want to pull this. You see, we don't want to do this, okay? So just be gentle with this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this under and baste it down real nice. Now remember, again, we have ease here, so we want to make sure that we're keeping that ease where it belongs, okay? And once we have this basted down, this is ready to be finished. And the way we'll finish this off is by doing a slip stitch, okay? A nice slip stitch. So if there's a little tiny bit of a gap here, don't fret about that. You know, it's not that big of a deal. When you do the slip stitch, it'll bring it all together. Okay? It'll bring it all together. It's going to look fantastic. Okay. Now here, let's see if I can turn this a little bit. Remind me next project to do a shorter jacket. It's a lot to manage, right? Yeah. All right, so what I like to do here, and a couple things to note. We're only going to be sewing the this top collar, all right, to where the inlay begins. Okay, so right here is our shoulder line, okay? So I really don't need to sew it past my shoulder line, okay? We're going to be coming in with our lining, and our lining is going to be covering that area up, okay? And we want to keep, as always, this inlay free, okay? We don't want it, we don't want to be basting it down because we run the risk, of course, of it pulling underneath the jacket. We don't want that, okay? So what I'm going to do right here is I'm just going to form, in fact, I'm going to turn this under now, like so. There we go. That's better. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to form a nice, let's see, do I have too much here? No, I actually have just the right amount. Okay. I'm going to form a nice corner right here, okay? I'm going to make a nice corner right there in the, where it kind of is like an L shape, right? So here, so what I need to do is get that and turn it under and make a real nice sharp corner there. Let's see. Yeah. Yes, that'll work. That'll work nicely. Okay. Come here. A lot of thicknesses, you see. A bit of thicknesses. And so here I'm just gonna, now here I don't mind if I pull this a little tighter. That's okay. All right, just a little bit. Oops, just a little bit. Oh, for Pete's sakes. Oh, for Pete's sakes, what did I do? Come here, you little Dickens. Yeah, that's it. This is one of those areas that you have to kind of take it just a little bit at a time, a stitch at a time, right? Yeah, let me just do a little back stitch right there because this is being a tiny bit stubborn and I'm running out of thread. Of course. Of course, in these little areas that are tricky, right? Tricky, tricky areas. All right, that's good. This looks good. Just pull that a little bit here. And again, I'm not too worried about if there's a gap because I'm going to slip stitch this and bring it all together. So that's not a big deal, okay? So we have that. We're going to stop, woof, right here. Get through that and just tack that nicely here. Or not. All right, I'll come back and get him. Okay, so that's what we want that to look like. That looks nice. Beautiful on the outside, yeah? And let's get the other side done here as well. So let me just situate this so we can work easily. I think we'll work this way first. I'll work on it like this to start with. I think, yeah. We'll work here. We'll cut that back a little bit. Okay? So you can maybe get a better idea seeing it a different way if it's facing away from me. Okay? All right. So again, I'm coming in with my ruler and I'm just marking, here's the top of my lapel, and I'm just marking where, bringing my ruler in, where the top of the lapel is, making a nice chalk line there, like so. Okay? Yeah. And then I'm adding 1 centimeter to that here. Okay? Now it looks, where am I here? How much do I have? No, that's fine. I have just the right amount here, maybe just a tiny bit more than 1 centimeter, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm not going to trim anything off here. It looks fine. Okay, so once again, whenever you're cutting on top of your cloth, again, I just want to, let me just double check that before I cut, right? Always check twice. Check twice, cut once. So we're not cutting the wrong thing and cutting a new top collar and starting all over again. That would be awful. All right, so here, I'm just checking to make sure that my scissors are where I want them and I'm not cutting my lapel off, okay? Very nicely. Always check, make sure, so that you know exactly where everything is. All right, very good. Okay, let me get a bit more thread. Where did I put my needle? Oh dear. Ah, there it is. I'll get a little more thread here. Let's get that out of the way. Let's make sure everything is copacetic under here, which it looks like it is. Okay. There's a lot going on under there, isn't there? We've got our bridle there. We've got, good Lord. No wonder we want to cover it up. What a mess. Oh my God. All that construction, right? Okay. All right. So now let me turn this a little bit and we'll get this started. All right. So here's the edge of our collar. We're just going to turn this in and start sewing right at that point. Okay. Again, we don't want to pull, so I'm going to just bring this down a little bit more. I don't want this to be pulling. Don't want my collar to be, I think it's fine. I think it's just because, there we go. Okay. All right. So we'll get this basted down nice. And again, whenever you're basting something like a situation like this, you want to stay about a 1/2 centimeter off the edge, because that gives you enough room to come in and do your slip stitch, okay? And hopefully you can see this clearly. Yes, okay, very nice. Okay, so here, again, I'm just turning it under nicely, keeping a nice straight line, following the top of the lapel, if you will. That's kind of my guide. Remember how I said before when we were finishing the lapel how important it was to make sure it was nice and straight. And now we know why, right? Now we know why. Now you know. Okay, and then here I'm just going to turn this like so. Okay, I'm going to corner this out. See if I can make a nice corner here. Yeah. I like to, if you can see, I pulled the cloth up a little higher here with my needle, you see? And then what I can do is just bring it down. Easier said than done, like so. Okay. And here. Again, I'm not going to worry about a little bit of a gap because that happens, okay? I can fix that when I do my slip stitch. And I'd rather have this part right here a little tighter, just so I'm sure everything's fitting in here nice and snug, okay? Nice and, I don't want it pulling, all right, but I just want it to be snug, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's not so bad. That's not so bad at all. Now what we need to do, let's see, where's our shoulder line end here? Okay, right there. Okay, great. What we need to do is we need to take a look at the edges of our collar there, our notch, if you will, okay? And we have to decide what we want to do with them. So let me just tack this. Okay, that's good. Very good. All right. So what I'm talking about here is the edge here of our collar. We need to turn this cloth over, okay? But one situation that I run into a lot is the fact that because the angle of the collar, okay, this gives me a really funky kind of little situation here, yeah? Because when I turn this back, you can see how this is all laying. It like kind of comes up at a real severe angle. And so it makes it a little difficult to do anything with that. And I know that I said I was going to turn this under, and I could do something like this, and maybe just have it kind of be a little tab and cut this down and turn it under. But I don't know if I really want to do that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just trim this back a little bit because there's a lot here, okay? And I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to not do anything with it at the moment, okay? I'm just going to trim some of this off, get it out of the way. And that leaves me enough to turn back here and decide what I want to do. If I want to tuck it in and do something like this, you see, I can. Or I may just decide to tuck and cut this in and tuck it right here. So I turn it in like I did everything else, okay? But right now, I don't feel like making that decision. I reserve my right to not do anything at this point. I'm going to leave that. All right. So what we're going to do now, I'll definitely, when we go to finish the collar, I think I'll tackle this at that time. I'll show you how we can go about doing all that, okay? But right now I think maybe I'm just being lazy and undecisive, because it can be a real pain to do this when you have such an angle, right? It can be a real difficult kind of task here to get this to lay down real nice, and it's irritating. And the most important thing, in my opinion, is I want this line right here, okay, to be really crisp. And so I think what I'll probably end up doing is cutting this back and turning it in between the melton and the linen. In fact, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just do it, because I think that's what I'm going to end up doing anyway. I am. All right. Let's just do it. So what I'm doing here is I'm just taking out a few of my bastes, because they're going to get in my way, okay? And I don't want those stitches in my way. All right, so if we're going to do this, what we're going to do first and foremost is we're going to trim this back to 1 centimeter. Okay, let's trim it back to 1 centimeter. Maybe just a smidgen more, just so that we have enough in case it frays a little bit or something like that, okay? So let's just trim it back. Boy, that was a real roller coaster of indecisiveness on my part, wasn't it? I know, because it's just such a pain in my keister, this little thing. All right, be really careful here. I'm just going to trim this back, okay, without cutting anything else off. All right, here. All right. Now the challenge that we have, of course, is we have to turn in the edge nicely here. So let's get, where's my needle and thread? There it is. Okay. So what we have to do, in fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this so that my edge here is nice and my edge here is nice, okay? But it's not quite enough to baste. It's not quite enough to baste. So let's just press it, okay? Put a little bit of water on it with my finger, like that and like that. Let's just turn it down. And we'll just use the press cloth so we don't burn it, because that would be bad, right? Oh, can't make up my mind what on God's green earth I want to do I? Can I? Crazy. All right. Okay, that's going to make it much easier. So now, just like we did before, we can turn this under like so. Yeah, this is still a little bit too much. Yep. Okay, so I want to turn that nice like that. There we go. That'll do it. These little areas are like so fidgety. That's what really drives me crazy about stuff like this, is like it's so small, such a small little area what you're doing, and it's really fidgety. That's why, like, peak lapels are the same way. They're like small and they're fidgety and they're a pain in my keister to work with. I hate peak lapels. I really do. I'll do them if I have to, but God, out of everything in tailoring, everything, there's not much I don't like doing. Like, I'm not a big fan of buttonholes. I told you that. But you know what? I find a little bit of satisfaction in buttonholes, I suppose. A little bit. But God, do I hate doing peak lapels. Okay, well, I've said enough about that. All right, so what am I doing here? I'm not really showing you because I'm moaning about this little small area. So I'm just like I turned in the edge of the collar, I'm doing the same thing here on the end, okay? Just turning it in between the linen and the melton and basting it down, okay? Now I've got this little piece here that is going to be a pain. So we're going to have to decide what to do with that. For now, I'm just going to leave it. You see this little guy poking out here? I don't want to cut him because if I cut him, I'm going to have a raw edge that will fray. So I think what I'll end up doing is turning him in like that when I go to cross stitch, okay? I'll just turn it in like so, and you'll never notice it. It's one of those things. The other thing we could do is we could turn it, again, it's so little and fidgety. What a pain in the keister. We could turn it in, God, like this, okay? Turn it in and under itself like that. Okay, when we go to, in fact, we can press it like that if we want. When we go to finish off everything, let's just give that a press. That looks better, okay? See if we can press him so he'll stay like that. Doubtful. Fidgety little bastards. Okay. All right. So I've shown you that. I'm not going to mess with the other side. I'll finish that on my own. You get the point. Without a doubt, you understand what I did here. If you don't, please leave me a question in the comments section and I'll be more than happy to clarify it for you. Okay? No problem. So we have this that looks nice and clean. And the last thing I want to do now that we have everything basted down, okay, is I want to give the collar one more really nice press, okay? So we're going to do the same thing as we've always done. I'm going to grab my sleeve board and let's get that out of here. Put this stuff back a little bit. And we're going to just give this guy a nice little press, or gal. Give this gal a nice little press. So we're going to put it up here. And this is just so that when we go to finish everything, and again, I'll finish that off and make it nice. Don't worry about it. Okay. When we go to finish everything, this is all set now. What we're going to do here, okay, at the back of the neck, is we're actually going to come in when we're finishing and we're going to do a pick stitch in this area. So I'm going to bring this down, okay, and I'll pick stitch it right along the bottom of the collar stand, okay? And so we'll do that later. This does not sit freely, obviously, all right? But I'm not going to pick stitch it now. We'll wait and do it all during finishing, okay? So here I'll just come in. We'll bring this here. Again, we want to keep the back of the neck nice and straight, just as we've always done. We don't want it to be curved. Let's get it right in the middle, okay? And we'll come in and give this another nice press all the way around, just so that we have that edge that we just turned under is pressed out nice. Gives us another opportunity to work out a little bit more of the ease if we wanted to, okay? And that's going to be it. Our collar is done with the exception of little homework I have, okay? So that's going to be exciting. This is all finished up nice. Okay? Beautiful. As always, whenever we're pressing, whatever water we put on, we want to make sure we take off. Yeah? Absolutely. Just like so. Oh, lovely. Lovely. Okay. Here we've got our shoulder line. I'll bring that around nice, like that. Put a little bit more water on here. Press this off real nice. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Poor Miss Pebbles, she didn't get her walk this morning, unfortunately. She does not like the rain. So she just ran out front. Ran out and ran back in. We usually take a long walk every day. We usually go between 3 or 5 miles a day. She's got some giddy up, that girl. I'll tell you what. She loves to walk. She just tells me where we're going. I just follow her, honestly. Crazy. 5 miles, usually. 5 miles. All right. That looks beautiful. Let's get this side here, okay, as well. So everything's nice. Yep. Beautiful. We'll put it up on the old mannequin and have a look. Give it a little, ooh, ah. Or, oh God, what did we do? What on God's green earth did we do? Now, the other thing I will mention is if you're using a plaid like I am, you're going to have some disformation, maybe is a good word, I'm not sure, where because we have the basting stitches in the collar here, okay, you might see a little, you know, the plaid might just do a little bit of this, right? Because it's being held in certain places by those stitches. Once we have the collar completely finished and we take all of these basting stitches out, if you have any little zigzag, that's all going to fall into place. So don't get yourself too worried about that, okay? Don't get too worried about that. Don't get your frow all wrinkled up, yeah? Okay, that looks lovely. Very nice. Very, very nice. Okay, so let's put it up here. And like I said, we just have to finish off the other notch on the collar. Come here, you. Let's pull this out a little bit. Okay. Well, I have to say that looks very beautiful. Like I said, when we go to finish all this, these little gaps here will get filled in. The only thing that I see here that I don't like is this is not as straight as I'd like it to be. So I'm going to probably come in here and just reposition this cloth a little bit. This is kind of bowing out here and it shouldn't, okay? So obviously I didn't get this pulled in and secured straight, and I want to fix that. So I'll go in and mess around with that. But otherwise, I think our collar turned out very nice. I'm very happy with that. Very happy with it, as a matter of fact. I think it looks lovely. And so, yeah. So now that we're all done with that, the next step is to come in and start the shoulders. Oh, excuse me, the sleeves, all right? And so that's going to be our next step in this lovely jacket. Thank you for joining me in the atelier today. If you've enjoyed this lesson, please do like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. And also leave any thoughts or questions in the comments section below. I love hearing from you and I answer every single one. Now, in my next lesson, we're going to be moving from the collar to the sleeves. one of the most complicated processes in the jacket. We'll be starting out by putting in the shoulder pads, by shaping them properly and ensuring that they're in the jacket properly as well. You're not going to want to miss that lesson. That's what's happening next time in the atelier.